Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Teachers That Sparkle, the place where you get all things that sparkle to make your classroom the best that it can be. I hope you had a fantastic holiday and a wonderful break. You all deserve to have some time to just breathe. But if you're like my daughter, the break went really, really fast. And with all of the hustle and bustle of the holiday, she actually only got one day to just kind of rest and relax. However, we did accomplish quite a few things. We made a decision this week. For those of you who may not know, my daughter got engaged about a month ago, and on Tuesday, we visited our first and only venue for the wedding, and we made a decision about that and just waiting on all of the paperwork. And we will have a place for a wedding next October of 2024. So I'm super excited about that. She's my only daughter. I have always dreamt of giving her the perfect wedding, or at least perfect for her. And I'm excited. I think that we are going to design something that's going to be amazing and actually at a pretty good cost. So 1 year from now, come back to me if you're getting ready for a wedding, and we can talk about ways that we saved money in this whole process. So nonetheless, that was a big event for this week. Also, I have a very special dog. Y'all have heard me talk about him before, but he has a difficult time in the car and he has a difficult time around other dogs. And he actually went on a trip this week. We drove only about an hour, so not too far, but we didn't stay at our home. We stayed at my daughter's apartment with her fiance, her new puppy. Yes, you heard me say that. And then her future in-laws. And it was a full house. And typically, Oakley, my dog, will be over the top, out of control in situations like that. But he actually did pretty well. So it, for us, was a successful week, but busy nonetheless. I just hope that you had at least one moment to take some time for yourself to breathe, because that's what having that time off is all about. The good news is most of you have 3 or 4-ish weeks until you're off again, and that breaks a little bit longer typically. So if you didn't get that chance to rest and relax, a better one is coming. So just stay tuned. All right, having said that, I want to talk to you about something that I really wanted to touch upon before the first holiday break, but I got wrapped up in that grading series that we were doing, and I did not get a chance to do so. So I want to kick off this next 4 weeks or so with something that's very, very important. Student behaviors this time of the year. And I talk about it in that manner because of 2 things happening. Number one, think about us as adults. Sometimes the holidays can be very challenging. We think about all of the things that we have to do. We think about all of the things going on. We think about all of the people we might be missing. I remember being here in Houston the first few years. It was very challenging. We counted down the hours until we could get in our car and drive up to Iowa to see family, because we missed everyone so much. And it made those last couple weeks very stressful because we had to get ourselves ready. Plus, we had to do all the things that needed to be done at school. Plus, we needed to be able to, have some time for our own little family of 3. Plus, we needed to think about the stress of the driving and how we were going to settle our dogs, because we always took our dogs with us, and so many things. And then the actual drive, usually we would end up caught in a snowstorm. It was very few and far between when we weren't. And all of that stress can really affect a person's daily living, right? Now, as adults, we tend to have some filters. We tend to have some regulation with our stress management. But for kids, think about it. If a parent is stressed out, if things are going on within the family unit that's causing some extra stress, and Adults can kind of control that. And I'm going to say kind of, because we tend to have some kind of regulations, but not always, depending upon where that adult is in their control of themselves, right? But kids don't. And they feel those things, whether we realize they feel it or not. We can really start to get wrapped up in our own adult drama as parents and forget about what's happening with kids. I can talk about that because I'm a parent and I've been there. But then on the flip side, we also have some students that they crave the structure of what we provide them at school. Whether they're in a great home or a more challenging home, I don't think it really matters, so to speak. It's a change, and some children cannot handle that kind of big change, especially thinking, well, my parents are going to have to work, so now I got to go to a daycare, and that might be a place where I don't really know anyone. That could be a very legitimate across the board. It doesn't matter what kind of area or economic status you belong to, that could be real, right? If we think about some of our families that are struggling financially right now, and there's more than what we know because of the economy, where are we going to get our next meal, or what will be our next meal, when at school we know breakfast and lunch is always going to be there? These are some things that I think we all as teachers need to be 100% aware of. And we need to be aware of not only this in our students, but this in ourselves as well. Because what tends to happen, and I've seen this so many times, especially these weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas break, tensions are high, stress levels are high, and then we start to get into these power struggles. A kid does something, the teacher's upset. A kid does another thing because now my teacher's upset and the teacher's more upset, and it continues to climb. I've seen data trends where office referrals spike in the month of December. I see and hear, I've heard teachers actually start the day after Thanksgiving break, come in and start to say, Sherry's not going to have a Christmas party this year. She's already misbehaving. I'm taking it away. And then if you really stop and reflect on that, now you've made this threat that you have to follow through on, but maybe the situation really didn't render that kind of consequence. I really caution all of us during this time of the year to find our ways to have an outlet for ourselves as the teacher. If you start to feel yourself escalating, really stepping back and thinking, okay, is this really worth it? Can I maybe do the planned ignoring, or can I move on and deal with this later when I'm calmer? I think then we have to remember with students, sometimes and there's always a cause for behavior, right? I 100% of the time, there's a cause for behavior. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. There's a cause. Maybe stepping back during this time of the year and just kind of reflecting, is this normal? Is this more elevated than normal? Because you do have some kids, especially the kids that are typically those that have behavioral difficulties, spike even more during the holiday season. Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying just let kids misbehave and go crazy. I'm not saying just let anything happen and don't really pay attention to it. And I'm not ever saying don't ever send kids to the office or, provide a consequence that meets the behavioral concern. What I am saying is, I think this is the time of year for us to really step back and think about it. Think about our own state of being. Think about the student, what's happening in their world, what could be happening, what could be causing the behaviors. And I know that once I was able to start realizing that as a teacher in my own classroom, it made a huge difference with how my students were able to be managed during this time of the year. It's not just this time of the year, guys. You think about this with any break coming up, but I know that it can be even more heightened with the holidays and the stress level during that time. So this week, I hope that that provided you with a little bit of thought anyway, processing time, something to think about so that you can start to process, how do we make this happen? I can promise you, I don't have all of the answers, but next week and the upcoming weeks, I do want to continue to talk somewhat about this and talk about just reminding us of structures, reminding us of what we need to be reviewing this time of the year and those types of things, just to kind of keep things on target. But I will wrap up with this one last piece. You are back in the classroom with your students. You're probably not seeing this until later in the day on Monday, the 27th, because that's the day I'm recording and uploading. But if you didn't do this today on your first day back, do this tomorrow, first thing. Go back over your rules and expectations in the classroom. We, a lot of times, tend to think that kids just remember and they've been home for a few days, even if they've been home for 3 or 4. I think it's important for us to be able to do that. So take that little tip and all of this information, just process it through, and join me right back here next week on Teachers That Sparkle, where we just continue to talk about setting up your classroom for the most success that you possibly can have. All right, I'm Sherry, and I will see you next week right here.